Bit of London rush hour traffic. I say rush hour, it was a lot busier 2 hours ago when I arrived. Nice to see you, Susan, Tish. Hey Leah. Wonderful, wonderful that you're here. Hey Casey. So here we are in London, of course. We're in London, SW7. Just wait a couple of minutes until everyone's here. It just goes to 8 o'clock, which it seems to be. I'll wait a minute or two more. Quite an interesting time I had getting here today. I parked my car right up near the Albert Hall, but it took a long time to get there. And I got up to the top and I realised there were a few police cars and police motorcycles, and then a couple of Land Rovers or Range Rovers went past, and I peeked into one of them as I was being stopped on the side of the road, and it was Prince William and Kate. Wills and Kate managed to get within about 10 feet of them today, so that was quite fun. So we're in SW7. Here I am. Hey guys, nice to see you. I'm here in London. It's lovely. The weather is beautiful the last few days. Oh my goodness. Now, I've had friends of mine saying we need the rain. We don't need the rain. The land might need the rain. I'm quite happy for it to be the way it is. What we're going to do from here is take a walk from South Kensington Tube. There are many entrances, and we're going to walk up to the Albert Hall, which I couldn't get to earlier on my test because of seeing Wills and Kate, but we'll see what's on there, what's happening around the Albert Memorial. I've caught the sun, Linda has said on the chat. I have. I need to be careful with that. I was doing some gardening for my mum earlier on, doing some weeding and some planting of tomatoes. So here we are, the Natural History Museum. We're at South Kensington Tube. Officially opened, the tube station, 24th of December 1868. And it was one of those early subsurface stations, just cut and cover, so they literally dug a hole or a tunnel as deep as the train or the tube would be, and the tracks were laid into that trench. Now the trenches here are because they're building a new entrance, another entrance into the tube station. So all of this here is some renovation and some beautifying of the gardens here. Normally the gardens here are fantastic, and this is where all the school groups have their meals, their picnics, and it's perfect time for them. So it's quite tricky for them at the moment. They have to walk all the way up towards Kensington Gardens. There's an enormous tunnel linking all the museums, and it used to charge you a penny. And during both world wars, underneath, in that direction, the direction we're walking, Exhibition Road, the tunnel leads along half the road. During both world wars, items from museums were stored there. But the Natural History Museum opened in 1881. The architect was a man named Alfred Waterhouse. It really is, of course, one of the must-sees of London. It's most famous, I suppose, for its large collection of dinosaur skeletons and its ornate architecture. A cathedral of nature. 850 staff looking after a small amount, only 80 million items in 5 collections. Botany, entomology, mineralogy, paleontology and zoology. Been such a wonderful building. It's also been used for films. 1975's One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing, Paddington, The Mummy. By the way, the saddest thing really at the moment on this tour is that's covered up during the restoration. There's a fossilized tree behind that, 330 million years old. So they're going to protect that. It's petrified. It's turned to stone. All the organic material has been replaced by minerals. In this case, it's iron and calcium carbonate. Fossilization, we call it, or petrification. But the reason we started there is because they have covered up quite a lot of this view, the Natural History Museum. The road we're going along is Exhibition Road, named simply after the great exhibition of 1851 in Hyde Park, which is at the top of the road and turn right. Used to be known colloquially as Albertopolis. Prince Albert, we'll get to him in a moment. The buildings on either side, to be honest, haven't changed too much the last 130 years or so. But the road itself has been widened. There's a Cromwell Road behind us, said to be named after Richard Cromwell, the son of Oliver Cromwell. Richard Cromwell owned a house there. On the right hand side is the V&A, on the left hand side is some of the Natural History Museum, and then a little bit further up on the left is the Science Museum. There was a book in the early 2000s which seemed to influence the way this road and sidewalk, it all seems to blend into one. It's called Townscape. They kind of explained people's need for visual stimulus. When you walk up a long road, sometimes that road seems so much longer because you can't see anything on the way. But if there's always something to see, it might just be a tree, it might be a little landmark, it might be a parking spot with a few cars. It gives you the sense that the road is not quite as long as it actually is. By the way, part of the V&A here, well, to pay respect to what they have left here. This was quite heavily damaged in the Second World War, and they could have plastered all of this up. But they didn't. So it's a symbol of history, a symbol of defiance, a symbol of survival, and that things just go on. So they've just left these shrapnel chunks as part of the architecture. I like that. And the other side, you've got a modern wing, the natural history, the research wing there. But on the right hand side here, we have the V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum. It's dedicated to applied and decorative arts and design. Quite a small collection in comparison to the Natural History Museum, only 2.5 million items. I suppose they're larger items, they're not just bones. It is actually one of the largest museums in the world. It's got 5,000 years of art history within. There was a theatre museum in Covent Garden. The theatre museum is now here on the second floor. And it was here before the Natural History Museum. The Natural History was built on this road in 1881. But this has been here since 1857. There's an enormous Glastonbury Festival archive. Great festival, which I'll be visiting very soon. And the first museum to have refreshment rooms in 1857. It was originally called the South Kensington Museum. And the architect was a man named Captain Francis Fowke, or Fowke, F-O-W-K-E. The modern extension is called the Blavatnik Hall, after Len Blavatnik, the owner of Warner Music. You might imagine all the cars that are parked on this road are quite nice ones. And you wouldn't be wrong. Quite a few embassies in this area. This is the Henry Cole wing, by the way. He was the first director of the V&A. A great man for the working classes. He extended the opening hours to the evening because, to be honest, it was the middle and upper classes that would go into museums, and he wanted the working classes to go. So he extended those evenings, used gas lighting. Prince's Gate is just up here. Number 14 was the headquarters of 8 US ambassadors between 1920 and 1950. Now, of course, the US ambassador lives in Winfield House in Regent's Park. Has the second largest private garden in London after a small building called Buckingham Palace. Also, Prince's Gate was the site of the Iranian embassy siege, which lasted 5 days in 1980. This is the Hyde Park Chapel. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church. When the Book of Mormon opened at the Prince of Wales Theatre, now the longest running show at the Prince of Wales Theatre in its history, people from the Mormon Church would stand outside, and instead of campaigning against this show, this irreverent show written by the creators of South Park, they decided to come at it at a different angle. And the Mormon Church said, well, you've seen the show, now read the book. Then you have 62 to 63 Prince's Gate. I love this building. Designed by A.D. Button and Partners. Also designed the Park Lane Hotel. Great Art Deco building. On the left, we've got the Imperial College, London. It's the College of Science, Technology and Medicine. We're going back to Prince Albert, why they called this area Albertopolis. And for a moment, we can see from here, by the way, appreciate this idea of townscape, this book from 1961, which kind of influenced this road and the redesigning of this road. So you've got the actual road on the right, you've got the sidewalk on the left. There's not much of a difference between the two, so it can cause a bit of panic. People walking up this road think, which bit can I walk on? And I've been walking on the actual road bed for quite a long time, so now I'm on the sidewalk. I'm not even on the sidewalk, I'm on the bit where cars can park. But I'm a lot safer than cars moving to the right hand side of me. But the Imperial College really was because Prince Albert had this vision for an area of culture in this section of London. It came out of a concern in the early 1900s that Britain was falling behind Germany in terms of scientific education. And Albert was a patron of the early royal colleges. And this area, with the museums and with the Great Exhibition in 1851, it seemed the perfect area. Just up on the right, we've got the Pepperdine University, started in Los Angeles by George Pepperdine, 1937. Now the main campus is in Malibu. There are international campuses all over the world. The London campus is just here. Private research university affiliated with the Churches of Christ, but open to all beliefs. Just to give you a sense of the difference in design with the Imperial College, or the extension of the Imperial College here. Also got the Goethe Institute, Goethe, German language school. They're quite clever because there's also a Stein's Berlin, which is a German restaurant conveniently located right next door. So a German language school and a German restaurant. You're just going to learn a few words, pop out, and then go to the restaurant afterwards. It's the Royal School of Mines, to do with mineralogy. If I were Indiana Jones, and there's a new Indiana Jones film coming out, or Lara Croft, and I was into maps, mining equipment, geology, mineralogy, I would go here. Opened in 1841. And the red building in the centre is the Jamaican High Commission, not embassy, High Commission, diplomatic mission. Different to an embassy, it's part of the Commonwealth, a prime location in a beautiful area of London. We'll take a left here down Prince Consort Road, and we'll approach the Royal Albert Hall from the back. This building is still part of the Royal School of Mines here. Lovely quiet road. I've realised that doing this tour on previous platforms, if I continued up Exhibition Road, I suddenly lose signal. Having done it a few times, this seems like the best way of doing it. So this is the actual entrance of the Royal College of Mines. Julius Werner, Alfred Bate were the sponsors and benefactors to the school. The designer of that was Aston Webb. Designed some of the main facade of Buckingham Palace in 1913. Been seen in the film Kingsman, Sliding Doors, Poirot, one of my favourite films, The Ipcress File, 1965. Now that beep, by the way, has nothing to do with me. It's to do with this Lamborghini. Just jumped out in front of everyone. So we're going along Kensington Gore. Gore, G-O-R-E. Gory. We now see a horror film and we think of the word gore. But it's an Old English word for a wedge. Triangular section. Think of the game Trivial Pursuit with the little slices or wedges. Think of, and I don't want to upset you, a Lazy Susan, where you've got the dip in the middle and the triangular bits around the edges. I know Susan is on the tour, and she might get upset every time I say that. The Royal Albert Hall. Nice and quiet tonight. Closed this evening, so we can approach it from the back. 6 million red bricks, 80,000 terracotta blocks, home to the BBC Proms, concerts, the BAFTAs, comedy gigs, tennis. The architects were two men, Francis Folk and Henry Young Darracott Scott. Has the largest unsupported glass dome in the world. 20,000 square feet. It can stand 158 tons of snow. We could not be any further from snow at the moment in London. The roof itself is the size of 10 double-decker buses with a taxi on top. The carpet in the corridor is the largest single woven design in the world. There's a plaque to Sir Malcolm Sargent, died in 1967. Delivery company that did this, your groceries. And they used to do the world's first bodybuilding competition was held here at the Albert Hall. And who was the main judge? None other than Arthur Conan Doyle. This is a fun trivia. 524 laps of the auditorium. Imagine sitting there through that. The violin here again. Let's cross the road and look at the wonderful Albert Memorial. Designed by Giles Gilbert Scott. Also designed Waterloo Bridge, every single telephone box, Battersea Power Station, most of it, and the Tate Modern. To celebrate commerce, engineering, agricultural, ingenuity, manufacture. Celebrates industry, really. Also celebrates Africa, America, Asia and Europe. It's inspired by the Gothic Scaliger tombs in Verona. And it's made from Portland stone, enamel, agate, onyx, jasper, cornelian, Christic marble. Good old-fashioned granite. I do love it. Very sunny here, and the sun's coming in our direction. So we're here in Kensington Gardens. Get as close as I can, and we'll turn around and see the Albert Hall in its full glory. Prince Albert, Albertopolis. Albert Memorial was created out of public subscription. Wealthy merchants, usually, that meant. Opened in 1872 by Queen Victoria. The statue itself in the centre was seated in 1876. It's grade 1 listed. ...176 feet or 54 metres high. Sun is in our faces. As we turn this way, should be a bit better. It's a tricky one at 8:30 in the evening when you're walking towards the sun. Blinds not only me, but also you and the camera. Isn't that lovely? The 1960s acoustic mushrooms, diffusers, were installed to stop the echo. You can see the roof at the top. They're doing a lot of restoration work to it. The scaffolding at the top of the roof is not often you see that at the Albert Hall. Largest unsupported glass dome in the world. Been a few leaks there. My friend works in the box office there. They said they've been a few leaks during the thunderstorms we have had in the last couple of weeks. They're just going through every single bit of glass and all the lead between those bits of glass, just to make sure. It's used as a landing marker for pilots in World War I and II, as in bomber pilots. And then they realised this, so they painted the roof black to try and stop it. Adele, Ella Fitzgerald, Fred Astaire, Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, Michael Kiwanuka, who I saw here only a few years back, Danny Elfman, recently Lord of the Rings, and a lot of gaming music events. And the organ inside is the Henry Willis organ, known as the Voice of Jupiter. It's 25 yards high, weighs 150 tons, has 10,000 pipes. In the 1890s, if you could not afford a ticket here, you could pay a bit to hear it down the phone. They called it electrophone, trying to make it affordable. And each year they have the Proms, the promenade performances, which are a bit cheaper than a lot of the events here. I'll show you a map of where we are. That's where we came from. You might think it's a very loud car, but it's this fella.
Also don't have a clue and pump out a few babies that are just the same as you. Everyone's a victim tonight. If you're black or white, you are here inside the.
It's so loud.
Welcome to the world, baby girl. I'll get you think if that's okay. We'll encourage self-destruction through the music that you play.
Now, folks, coming to the end of our walk along to the Albert Hall and the Albert Memorial, I would like to thank you so much for joining me. I pinned to the top anyway if you would like to support me. It works on Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. That's pinned to the top of the chat. I've started to create on Buy Me a Coffee a membership scheme where people will get extra tours and extra ghost stories, and just recorded before this tour and making of the thought I'd wander around a bit. That'll be up on Buy Me a Coffee, and that's $10 a month if you fancy that, and that gives me a bit of pre-known income. But I'm really enjoying these tours. I'm really enjoying creating new stuff, reading new stories, which I haven't been for a while. I'd like to thank you all. I'm going to walk up to the back of the Royal Albert Hall now. Now, thank you so much for joining me. The next tour, Tish, it's a good one. I haven't put it on the diary yet. I've somehow managed to get 2 acting jobs in the last month, and there's been quite a few lines to learn. I won't get paid for them for like a year, but I wanted to be professional and learn those lines and turn up knowing everyone's lines, so I could say, you got that wrong. But the next one will, what'll be today, Tuesday, maybe at the weekend, maybe Monday, but I'll definitely put up a little ghost story for some people, whoever wants to enjoy that, in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to stop outside the Royal College of Music. I can hear the pianos playing. Thank you, lovely people. Let's give you a final view. The back of the Albert Hall. It's a bit dark here because the sun's coming in my direction. One's a BBC job, one's a commercial. BBC job is the writer of a show called Line of Duty. It's his new show. Jed Mercurio is his name. So that should be out in July. Very small part, but I was like 5 days in Belfast filming, which was wonderful. you get treated like a lord on the way there, and once your filming's done, they send you back economy class. So it's a real smack back down to earth. But it's great fun, and I've been doing it 25 years, so I'm kind of used to that. They want to keep you healthy and looked after on the way there, and once your work's done, they go, bye. I'm surprised they even fly you home, to be honest. Yeah, it's great. I'm still so happy about it. Some more scaffold there. There's work being done in Kensington Gardens. I can hear the piano. I'm going to be quiet for a second to see if you can hear it. You probably can't. I'll move the microphone to the direction of the pianist. Pianist, I said. Yeah, the idea with the scaffolding, every tour that people do of London, you're gonna have scaffolding. My friend was doing a private tour in New York, and he was at the Flatiron building, and he took a couple there yesterday, and that's covered in scaffolding at the moment. So they're getting the idea, I think, from us in NYC as well. Nice and quiet. Always a parking space here as well, which is interesting. You would think one of the busiest, most affluent parts of London, I'm talking a bit more quietly now, you would think that you wouldn't find much parking, but I think people just drive here and they think, we can't park here, surely we can't, and yet they can. Lots of love to you all. Thank you so much. Take care. Au revoir.